Yo, what's up everybody?
We have made it to Italy's capital and largest city,
Rome.
Unfortunately, this is the last city during our Italy travels, but weather permitting, we hope to be able to make a couple of vlogs from here.
When I was planning this Italy trip, this was the city I was most looking forward to because I've always loved classical Roman history.
Yeah, first up though, we need to go find our guide and get our tickets. We have joined an express tour today to see some of the most popular sites, and we've already seen the Colosseum just coming out of the train station. So
It looks amazing, can't wait for today.
Super excited to share these experiences with you guys too.
If you're lucky enough to purchase the Colosseum tickets yourself, they're €18, which also gives you access to the Palatine Hill as well as the Roman Forum, but they're always sold out, so we had like no luck getting those. So what we did instead was purchased a tour through Get Your Guide, and I went through and found the express tour option. So it's only like a 1 hour express guided tour through the Colosseum, and then they give you the tickets and allow you to wander around yourself, which was perfect for Yen and I because we wanted to take our time and explore at our own pace. The cost for us was 85 New Zealand dollars per person, and we've already found our location, gotten our stickers. It was just right up here on top of the Colosseum metro station. So we're just waiting for a couple of minutes now before we head on in.
Been quite enjoying this tour so far because there is a little bit of a wait as you're entering and going through security and all that. So having the tour guide and having the audio guide in our ears, walking along and listening about all the history and little details and interesting facts is really cool, and it definitely enriches the experience. We're now up on the next level here, looking at the entire amphitheater, and it is such a magnificent sight. When we were in Turkey last year, we saw a ton of super cool amphitheaters, but nothing quite prepares you, I think, for seeing the Colosseum in person. It was constructed around 70 to 72 CE, and then it was completed roughly around the 80 CE. And so that means it took about 10 years for it to be completed, which is quite incredible when you consider this to be the largest amphitheater in the world. It used to be able to hold up to 50 to 70,000 spectators, and you got to use your imagination a lot for what it used to look like, but it is super, super cool.
This is a place that I wanted to visit for a very, very long time, and if you can imagine, back in the old days, the cheap seats were at the top and the expensive seats were at the bottom, kind of like how modern stadiums are today. And what they used to have was this massive awning that would stretch on out over here, and the crazy thing is it would protect the cheap seats mainly from the elements like the sun or the rain, and then the more expensive seats down the bottom, they actually didn't get shielded all that much from that awning. One of the common misconceptions about the gladiator fights was that it would always end in death. But in reality, very few gladiators would actually die because the crowd would often show mercy, and also it was very expensive to train gladiators, and they were kind of like celebrities as well, so you don't just kill off your celebrities. You see down there? That used to be the retractable floor, so it used to have wooden planks, and they let out things like animals or new gladiators, or they just rise above, and people in this area wouldn't see animals like lions or giraffes or things like
Elephants.
that. Yeah, so it would be quite the spectacle. It was called a hypogeum, and it was a labyrinth of tunnels and ramps underneath there, and it was also layered with a thick layer of sand to soak up all of the blood.
Yeah, on top of the wooden floors.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Learned something interesting. This here used to be where the emperor would sit, and it was closest to the exit that goes to his house on Palatine Hill.
And he'd also have the best view of the stadium, right there.
Another cool fact that we learned during this express tour is that the Colosseum wasn't used to be called the Colosseum. Its proper name is actually the Flavian Theatre, because that was the emperors that originally had the place built. And so the name Colosseum actually came because there used to be a giant, like 30-meter high statue of Emperor Nero, and it was called the Colossus of Nero, something like that. And so the name sort of just stuck, and then it just held throughout the centuries.
The outer layers of the Colosseum walls have broken down over the years due to earthquakes, showing this incredible cross-section view. We passed the Arch of Constantine on our way to the Roman Forum, where we stopped at the Arch of Titus and parted ways with our guiding group to explore the rest of the time on our own.
The Roman Forum served as a public area during ancient Rome. Public gatherings, trials, elections, celebrations, gladiatorial combats all took place here. And it used to be lined with shops and open-air markets. And we're currently walking along the Via Sacra, or the Sacred Road, which was the main street in the Roman Forum.
Now there are a ton of incredibly significant buildings in this forum, but once you reach about the end, before you hit the Arch of Septimius Severus, right behind me is where the Temple of Julius Caesar used to stand. Now his adopted son, Augustus, actually cremated him at that exact spot. And you know the infamous way which he passed was he was assassinated and stabbed 23 times by his fellow senators.
Yeah, all that remains there now though is just some rubble and a few flowers that are always there. We looped back to the Arch of Titus and made our way up here to Palatine Hill. And where we are right now is the Farnese or Farnese Gardens, which was a garden designed in the middle of the 16th century on the ruins of the Palace of Tiberius. And it was one of the first botanical gardens ever created in Europe. Now, this Palatine Hill has an amazing view over the Roman Forum. It towers something like 40 meters above it, and it's also the most central of the famous 7 hills. It's also known as the birthplace of Rome, and we'll explain why just a little bit later. What do you think of the view?
And for someone who loves ancient Roman history, this is like the pinnacle of how a day could go. It's just been awesome being able to walk through the forum, be able to stand on the hill. This is where the emperor used to live. So to be able to see all this and do all this and experience it all is just, I don't know, it's amazing.
Yeah, and we also get that awesome view of the Colosseum.
Right over there, look at that.
Yeah.
What a beauty. Here on Palatine Hill, there is a very famous excavation site where it's believed that Romulus lived.
The founder of Rome.
Yeah, and so if you like mythology, here's a good one. Romulus and Remus were twin brothers, and when they were babies, the king ordered that they be killed because they were believed to have been the son of the god of war Mars, as well as a human lady. So the babies were put into a basket and floated down the river Tiber, where it was expected that the elements would do the work. But they were found by a she-wolf who raised them and fed them, and then eventually they were found by a shepherd and his wife. And they were raised until they were adults, and once they grew up, they overthrew the king that ordered their death. And unfortunately from that point, Romulus and Remus were deciding on where they would place their next great city, right next to the river Tiber where they were floated down. But they had a disagreement over the exact location, and Romulus ended up killing Remus and founding Rome.
to the end, and where we've come to overlooks the Circus Maximus, or at least what remains of it. You can peer over these walls and see it over there. You can still make out its oval shape. Now, the Circus Maximus was the largest chariot stadium back in its day, and it was about 600 meters long. It also dates back to the 6th century BC, and it would have just been astronomically huge because it's believed that it could hold up to 150,000 spectators, and some sources say even 300,000.
Wow.
So it would have been massive. But yeah, very little remains of it today, just like the Hippodrome that we saw in Istanbul last year. Really got to use that imagination to picture what it used to look like back in its heyday. Alright, I think we're going to wrap things up here for the day, guys. We need to go find ourselves some food because it's actually quite late in the evening and we skipped our lunch. Thank goodness we had a big breakfast.
Yeah, this place doesn't actually have any food places, so that is a good thing to note.
Yeah.
But what an amazing day it's been today. I have had so much fun looking at the Colosseum and the Roman Forum and just imagining that I was back in those times and walking through the Forum in all of its glory.
Yeah, it is very crowded in many parts of it, but surprisingly here on Palatine Hill, it's actually quite peaceful. So it's quite a nice place to escape the crowds if you need, you know, a little peace and quiet.
Yeah, if you've enjoyed the vlog, don't forget to give us those likes and subscribe if you haven't already.
Drop us a comment. Have you been here before? Do you want to come here? Let us know. Love hearing from you, and we will see you in the next vlog.
See you, everybody!